When King Hezekiah heard, 2 Kings 19, when King Hezekiah heard this, he tore his clothes and put on sackcloth and went into the temple of the Lord. He sent Eliakim, the palace administrator, Shebna the secretary, and the leading priests, all wearing sackcloth, to the prophet Isaiah, son of Amos. They told him, "This is what Hezekiah says. This day is a day of distress, and rebuke, and disgrace, as when children come to the point of birth, and there is no strength to deliver them. It may be that the Lord your God will hear all the words of the field commander, whom his master, the king of Assyria, has sent to ridicule the living God, and that he will rebuke him for the words the Lord your God has heard. Therefore, pray for the remnant that still survives." So Hezekiah is not praying to the Lord directly here. He's telling Isaiah to intercede in prayer for them. Later on, Hezekiah is praying to the Lord directly. Part of the reason why this material is arranged the way it is to show the progression of faith in Hezekiah's part. His initial response was to try to buy Sennacherib off. That apparently didn't work. Sennacherib took the treasure. We read from his own annals that he took this stuff. He took this treasure. For some reason, the invasion wasn't called off. I'm not even really sure if that whole sequence was in chronological order. I just don't know. Because I believe this section is written topically to show Hezekiah's progression of faith. He goes from trying to buy Sennacherib off to praying to petitioning Isaiah to pray on his behalf and Judah's behalf, to praying himself, to praying to God himself directly. When King Hezekiah's officials came to Isaiah, Isaiah said to them, "Tell your master, this is what the Lord says. Do not be afraid of what you have heard. These words with which the underlings of the king of Assyria have blasphemed me. Listen! I am going to put such a spirit in him that when he hears a certain report, he will return to his own country, and there I will have him cut down with the sword." Now this is, again, chronologically speaking, this is really strange here, because Sennacherib is not going to die until 681 BC, which is 20 years after this. He will go back to his country. He won't actually die when he goes back to his country. He'll die 20 years later. I don't know what report they're talking about here. We'll read about this as we go on, but there's going to be more than just hearing a certain report. So let's go on and find out. When the field commander heard that the king of Assyria had left Lachish, he withdrew and found the king fighting against Libnah. He was getting closer and closer to Jerusalem. Now, Sennacherib received a report. Now, this might be the report referred to a couple of verses ago. Is this a report God is talking about? I'm not sure. I really don't know. But he is receiving a report here that Taharka, the Cushite king of Egypt, was marching out to fight against him. This is another one of those things where the chronology is messed up. Taharka was not the king of Egypt at this point in time. He becomes the king of Egypt later. But he is not the king of Egypt at the moment these events are happening. However, by the time this text is written down, he probably was the king of Egypt. So the writer, the compiler of this information, is identifying him as the Cushite king of Egypt, even though at this moment in time, he was not yet king of Egypt. Somebody else was. He was, however, commissioned to go north and fight against the Assyrians. We know that from his own records. We don't know what happened, though. He didn't die in this battle. He's going to go on and live many more years and become king. He's only like 20 years old at this point. Taharka at this point is only like 20 years old. And he's going to go on and become Pharaoh of Egypt, and he's going to have a pretty long, successful reign. So he's not going to die in this battle. I'm not even sure if he really engages in it. We don't really know what happened. This mystery engagement between Taharka and Sennacherib, we really have no idea what happened. So Sennacherib received a report that Taharka, the Cushite king of Egypt, was marching out to fight against him. So he again, presumably he's withdrawing to go fight Taharka, although it doesn't actually say that here. So he again sent messengers to Hezekiah with this word. Apparently he's leaving the invasion of Judah to go deal with Taharka. At any rate, he's giving this letter to Hezekiah. Say to Hezekiah, king of Judah, do not let the God you depend on deceive you when he says, Jerusalem will not be handed over to the king of Assyria. So previously, the Rabshakeh was trying to draw a wedge between the people and Hezekiah by saying, don't let Hezekiah deceive you. Now the king himself is trying to draw a wedge between Hezekiah and God, telling Hezekiah, don't let God deceive you. Do not let your God deceive you when he says, Jerusalem will not be handed over to the king of Assyria. Surely you have heard what the kings of Assyria have done to all the countries, destroying them completely. Will you be delivered? Did the gods of the nations that were destroyed by my forefathers deliver them? The gods of Gozan, Haran, Rezeph, and the people of Eden who were in the Tel Assar? Where is the king of Hamath, the king of Arpad, the king of the city of Sepharvaim, or of Hena, or Ivah? They're gone. The Assyrians destroyed them all. And he's going to do it to you too. And Samaria, for that matter. He's going to do it to you, Hezekiah. Where is your God? Hezekiah received the letter from the messengers and read it. Then he went up to the temple of the Lord and spread it out before the Lord. And Hezekiah prayed to the Lord. O Lord, again, these are all capital L-O-R-D, Jehovah, Lord's here. O Jehovah, God of Israel, enthroned between the cherubim. That's a reference to the city, the Ark of the Covenant, and the cherubim that were over it. And the cherubim they had in the inner room of the temple, where the God was supposed to be sitting on top of them, kind of like they were in his throne. You alone are God over all the kingdoms of Israel. Now Hezekiah is praying to him directly. The first time, he didn't apparently pray to God, and he tried to buy Sennacherib off. The second time, he asked Isaiah to intercede in prayer for him. The third time, he's going to God himself. You alone are God over all the kingdoms of this earth. You have made heaven and earth. Give ear, O Lord, and hear. Open your eyes, O Lord, and see. Listen to the words Sennacherib has sent to insult the living God. It is true, O Lord, that the Assyrian kings have laid waste these nations and their land. So Assyria is not lying when they say that. They're speaking the truth in that regards. What makes this speech so masterful, the Rabshakeh's speech earlier, and the king of Syria, what makes it so masterful is that it's fundamentally true. The things that they're saying are actually factually accurate. They're not making things up that didn't happen. They're not distorting the facts as they happen. They're just misassigning the meaning behind those facts. They're misinterpreting the point behind the facts, the power behind the scenes. But what they're saying is actually fundamentally, factually accurate. That's what makes their message so powerful, so dangerous. It is true, O Lord, the Assyrian kings have laid waste these nations and their lands. They have thrown their gods into the fire and destroyed them. For they were not gods, but only wood and stone, fashioned by men's hands. Now, O Lord our God, deliver us from his hand, so that all the kingdoms on the earth may know that you alone, O Lord, are God. Then Isaiah, son of Amos, sent a message to Hezekiah. So we didn't need Isaiah to do the praying for us this time. He's still going to be giving us a response. This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I have heard your prayer concerning Sennacherib, king of Assyria. This is what the Lord has spoken against him. So previously, he just said he's going to hear a report and leave. I'm guessing this report was the word of the Taharka coming to fight him. It appears as though he withdrew to go fight Taharka, although it doesn't actually say that. The text doesn't actually explicitly say that, but it seems to be that way. There's going to be more than just him leaving due to having something else to do. You know, previously he'd been fighting Babylon. Now, the reason why he didn't get to this part of the kingdom right away is because he was busy somewhere else for a few years. It could be he just might withdraw because other matters come to his attention and he has to go deal with first. But now we have a more detailed statement of destruction ahead for this guy. This is the word the Lord has spoken against him. The virgin daughter of Zion, that's a personification of Jerusalem, despises you and mocks you. The daughter of Jerusalem tosses her head at you as you flee. Who is it that you have insulted and blasphemed? Against whom have you raised your voice and lifted your eyes in pride? Against the Holy One of Israel. By your messengers you have heaped insults on the Lord. And you have said, with my many chariots I have ascended the heights of the mountains, the utmost heights of Lebanon. I have cut down its tallest cedars, the choicest of its pines. I have reached its remotest parts, the finest of its forests. I have dug wells in foreign lands and drunk the water there. So I've done all these things. I've gone to Lebanon, I've taken their trees. I've gone to other lands and I've dug wells and drunk the water in their lands. Whether they wanted me to or not, whether they liked it or not, I did it to them. With the soles of my feet, I have dried up all the streams of Egypt. This is boasting. Sennacherib hasn't done this. Sennacherib has not been to Egypt. Either he's planning to and he's boasting about it as if he already has, or he's just puffed up with pride, but he hasn't actually gone to Egypt. That's what Sennacherib is saying. That's what the Lord is saying, Sennacherib says to himself. Here's God's response to that. Have you not heard? Long ago I ordained it. This is God speaking here. In days of old I planned it. Now I have brought it to pass, that you have turned fortified cities into piles of stone. So this Sennacherib and his predecessors only did all this stuff because God allowed them to. God planned it. He ordained it. It was his plan all along. Sennacherib was not the authority behind the scenes causing all this to happen. Their people, drained of power, are dismayed and put to shame. They are like plants in the field, like tender grass shoots, like grass sprouting on the roof, scorched before it grows up. But I know where you stay, and when you come and go, and how you rage against me. Because you rage against me, and your insolence has reached my ears, I will put my hook in your nose, and my bit in your mouth, and I will make you return by the way you came. The hook and nose bit refers to the Assyrian practice of literally putting hooks in people's cheeks, or their noses or their mouths, and dragging and attaching, of course, ropes to the hooks, and dragging them along that way as they led them away from their land. That's how they did it. They would put a hook in your face somewhere, and attach a rope to the hook and just drag you. That would not be fun. And that's what he's referring to here. So he's going to do what Assyria does to everybody else. God is going to do to Assyria. This will be the sign to you, O Hezekiah. It's not Isaiah speaking again. This will be the sign to you, O Hezekiah. This year you will eat what grows by itself. The second year what springs from that. It's going to take that long to recover from the damage that's been caused. But in the third year, sow and reap. Plant vineyards and eat their fruit. Once more a remnant of the house of Judah will take root below and bear fruit above. For out of Jerusalem will come a remnant, and out of Mount Zion a band of survivors. The zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this. Therefore, this is what they keep. So summing it all up, because of all that, summing it all up, here's the heart of the matter. Therefore, this is what the Lord says concerning the king of Assyria. He will not enter the city, or shoot an arrow here. He will not come before it with shield, or build a siege ramp against it. By the way that he came, he will return. He will not enter the city, declares the Lord. I will defend this city and save it, for my sake, and for the sake of David my servant. That night, the angel of the Lord went out and put to death 185,000 men in the Assyrian camp. I don't know how many they had total, but however many they had, there are 185,000 fewer now. When the people got up the next morning, there were all the dead bodies. So apparently they died overnight. Now this could be a reference to some kind of plague. If God did this, if the angel of the Lord achieved this by some sort of manipulation of the natural order, it was probably done by some kind of plague. He may not have. He may have just done it miraculously. But if he used the natural order to achieve this, it was probably done by some kind of plague. There is an Egyptian record of Sennacherib's army falling to a plague of mice, which of course mice carry the plague, but while fighting one of the Egyptian pharaohs. So it could be referring to that. It could be actually it's a Greek record of an Egyptian story, but it could be a garbled version of what's going on here. So Sennacherib, I don't even know where Sennacherib is at this point. Okay, it's like he's not apparently outside Jerusalem. He was at Libnah, and then he apparently withdrew to fight Taharka. So I'm not even really sure where this is taking place. I always had the impression that it was happening right around Jerusalem itself, but I don't really know. You know, when you read this account and pay attention to it carefully, the ins and outs, I don't know where Sennacherib and his army actually are when this happens. But wherever it is, and I don't know how many soldiers they had. I don't know how many soldiers they had with them. I don't know how many more men they had back in Assyria that were ready to come out and fight and replace them. I don't know. But however many they have 185,000 fewer now. So Sennacherib, king of Assyria, broke camp and withdrew. He returned to Nineveh and stayed there. One day, while he was worshiping in the temple of his god Nisroch, his sons, Adremelech and Sharazar, cut him down with the sword. And they escaped to the land of Ararat, that's Turkey. And Esarhaddon, his son, succeeded him as king. That's 20 years later, by the way. That's after Hezekiah's death. Okay. So we know right there, and the way it's written makes it sound like it happens like right away. But we know we know that happened like 20 years later. He died in 681 BC. The invasion of Jerusalem, even at the beginning of the section, is said to have started in Hezekiah's 14th year, which is 701 BC. So he actually outlived Hezekiah, who died in 686. So because of that, we know that this whole account is written not necessarily because of chronology, but because of telling us a point. So I don't know where Sennacherib actually was when this plague happened. I don't know. It doesn't appear as though he was outside Jerusalem. I always had the impression that is where he was, but it doesn't seem like it. But the text doesn't actually identify his exact location at the time that happened. Okay, next we're actually going to skip ahead to Isaiah, and we're going to read pretty much this exact same account in the book of Isaiah, and then we're going to read the following account after that, and then come back to Kings.